Alright, hello everyone. So recently I have posted about starting a little Fanmade ID competition, as you may or may not know. And well, surprisingly, I have gotten more submissions than I have anticipated initially. Now that we are here, past the submission deadline, I'll be grading each and every submission with my totally unbiased opinions and potentially flaming anything you guys posted. I got this extremely real waiver saying I am allowed to do so, signed by every participant. Trust me on this one. But before we go any further, I'll quickly go over the general information of the contest to refresh your memories, if you've forgotten, or if you never read it, get you up to speed. First off, each contestant was tasked with doing 3 works. 1 3-star identity, 1 2-star identity, and 1 E.G.O of whatever risk they like. Unfortunately, not all participants submitted all 3 works, so the amounts of stuff I have to rank may vary between the categories. But summing everything up, 6 triple-star identity submissions, 2 2-star submissions, and 3 E.G.O submissions. Next thing is the rating system. I'm gonna be mainly looking at the viability of the kit. Does it even function? How well does it function? Is it broken, or is it just some type of season 1 shenanigans? Next, we're gonna look at the gimmicks of the submissions. Generally just looking at creativity of them. Are they copy-pasted from other sources, or are they original? Are they fun? Do they even work? I'll also look into consistency to see if the wording is more or less in line with Project Moon's wording. And of course, I'll also be looking at the complexity of the kit to see if it's overly complicated or are we having another Blade Lineage Jank situation over here. The time window for the creation of the kits was a week, which in hindsight, now that I look at it, might have been a bit short. Hell, even Project Moon themselves release a single identity once every 2 weeks. But I'm sure our amazing contestants did well anyway. Oh, and for the reward? Any submission that doesn't win is thrown into the concept incinerator, and the contestants will have a claw sent after them. Lose all 3 categories and you'll be seeing 3 claws instead. Just heads up, you know. Anyhow, with all that out of the way, let's start with the 2-star identities, then we'll move on to 3-star identities, and we'll end with the 3 E.G.Os. Kicking things off with our first kit, everybody say hello to Encorp E.G.O sticking Ishmael. And I'm already surprised that someone cared enough about the Encorp guns to make them into an ID, especially since they were just a living ammunition. Oh wait, hold on, she has that. We'll get to that later. Let's look at the base stats first, instead, which generally are nothing out of the ordinary except the below average speed range. But it's a 2-star, we'll let that slide, it's nothing criminal. Ishmael is also Pierce Fatal for we all know what reason. Then we can move on to skill 1 and skill 2, which seem pretty ordinary for a 2-star, spare maybe for the skill 2 having a slightly higher roll than most even 3-stars without any conditions. All bleed is also locked behind Chris conditionals, which, looking at the current state of hybrid IDs in Limbus company, I wouldn't put it past it that Project Moon would probably do something like that. But let's not dwell on Project Moon balancing for too long. And let's look at the skill tree instead, which for a 2-star identity does some pretty decent damage, especially if you manage to fulfill the poise coin reuse conditional on the last coin, making this a very good damaging move. Ishmael's clashable counter, aside from having a really high roll without any conditionals, does not offer really anything interesting. Same goes for Ishmael's passive, which, as the name suggests, is just a weaker version of 4-leaf clover. The support passive is also nice, but what's with the weird sin resources? Like 1 gluttony? Why? Never mind that, we have something bigger to address here. You didn't think I'd forget to mention these 2, did you? Oh no. We are going over them. Ishmael's actual passive that's always active, Living Ammunition, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a mandatory passive, so Encorp E-Sang can have a designated sinner to shoot beside Encorp Ryoshu, or whatever random identity he chooses. Basically, whenever E-Sang is using his skill tree and Ishmael is below 60% HP, he'll use the designated skill 4. No, hold on. Skill 4? Yeah, skill 4. For some ungodly reason, the designated alternative skill tree Encorp Ryoshu gives to Encorp E-Sang is a skill 4. It appears in the preview kit and nowhere else, which still baffles me to this day, but hey, that's a little trivia for you. And also bonus points for the details. But as for the skill itself, it's just E-Sang's skill tree all over again. Albeit with some minor tweaks to conditionals or numbers, or the first coin literally deleting Ishmael out of existence, or the second coin giving E-Sang straight up depression. Aside from some minor inconsistencies, it's a pretty polished ID, with a clear gimmick while also not just being a worse version of a better ID. And I could actually see Project Moon doing something like this. This gets a pass. Moving on. Our next and the last 2-star is, surprisingly, another E.G.O gear ID. Lobotomy E.G.O Big Sinclair. And we're starting off strong just by briefly looking at the kit. Like, why is the ID's name E.G.O Big and the sinner is Lobotomy E.G.O Big? Skill 2 lacks any name, and skill 3 and support passives are just... And don't get me even started on the offense level. That's... yeah, it's pretty high, you know? Skill 1 has the ancient roll of 9, scales from the unique status effect, which is... yeah, it's good, but that turn start is not really needed. The skill also uses the ID's unique ammo, which is written differently, literally 2 lines below, and this entire line over here more so feels like it should be another on-hit conditional by itself. Skill 2 is pretty similar to skill 1, just some changes to what status it inflicts and what buffs it gains, and it yet again writes spiky round in a different way. Now when we look at the skill tree, we can see that negative coin evade, which is for the purposes of getting hits, and I mean I get where this is coming from, but man, it's gonna hurt taking raw damage without any type of damage reduction or shield. It also generates punishing win on loose and reuses itself as well. Oh, and of course, reload. Let's look at the... I mean, it looks good on paper, until you realize they used 0.5% divided by spiky rounds, which at 0 spiky rounds will make this reload deal 0.005% HP. Going back to the skills. We get an extremely high rolling counter that gets used at 6+ unique charge while using dodge. With the high roll and offense level, I wouldn't be surprised if it would manage to one-shot even Virgilius. And for what it does... oh boy, there is a lot of funky stuff here. Sinclair gains fatal resistances for the entire turn and gains up to a whopping 1% shield. 1% of what? Don't worry about it. I don't know myself. The second coin, though with no on-hit conditionals, deals rough damage equal to target's HP percentage. But like, based on missing HP percentage? Current HP? How does it do it? And in the end we also get a turn-end conditional that's misplaced completely. Passives are simple enough, inflict more bleed when spending ammo and gain unique charge when hit, while giving some buffs at max stack, and effects to allies on own death. We also can see 2 non-existent conditionals. Overall, this one is a mess. And I don't think I need to tell you which ID actually wins this category. It's pretty obvious. Now with the fodder IDs done, we can move to the actual real stuff. And the amazing ID that will start off this category is Liu Association Section 3 Director Heathcliff. And we have no idea what part of Liu he's from, aside from the section. The ID has some rather interesting numbers. Skill 1 Boiling Jab is your typical skill 1, be it with 1 more coin power than usual, inflicting very weak burn and actually having good poise. Flaming Wave, Heathcliff skill 2, stole Magic Bullet skill 3 roll power and gave it coin power conditionals. It inflicts no burn potency, instead gaining a lot of poise potency and count, while giving burn count some use aside from turn and decay. Skill 3 is... Wait, why does it gain up to 4 coin power? Rip Space roll aside, it finally inflicts a standard amount of burn for a Liu 3-star ID, and it consumes poise to reuse the coin up to 2 times, bringing our already high roll to an even more insane height. And can we please stop with the max 30 curse? So in this case, it effectively does max 45, while eating 6 whole burn count. The counter is trying to rival Firefist Gregor in terms of unconditional roll, and even going above it with the coin power conditionals. It gives Heathcliff some unhealthy amounts of poise count on a conditional that makes no sense, because the counter doesn't even use any unbreakable coins. Passive is... I'm pretty sure I told the contestants to make an ID, not a boss. Because if I'm understanding this correctly, it can give up to 35 poise potency and 21 counts to every sinner if you have 7 Wrath Resonance. Oh, and burn count application buff, as if burn count was an issue. The support passive, ignoring the random envy resource required, is a pretty simple Liu Association passive. Alas, that would be it for the ID. And honestly, aside from the minor balancing issues, the kit is pretty solid, with a basic idea for what it wants to do. I really enjoyed looking into this one, which makes me want to see what other people may... Never mind. Scrap that. But let's try to at least look through this. Skill 1 cripples sinners while doing 1 and applying 1 potency of whatever and 1 bleed count. Skill 2 sacrifices 2 sinners to summon Vespa and Kim, but I'm more interested in the Clash Loose conditional, that being Sinclair getting erased from the face of the earth. And actually, great job with that. I approve of this. Skill 3 makes all your sinners have a short chat with Carmen while doing a random sinking dash and activating the IDs&EGO. I am not even trying to comment on the guard. Passive is a standard Virgilius behavior, while support passive gives a hat to Kim or something. Well, that was quite something. And man, I wish I could take a break right now. But looking at the next ID on the line, yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. E.G.O Thorakalgia Ryoshu is quite a big ID. And this might just be the greediest ID you can have on your poise team. Looking at the base kit, the ID seems pretty simple, with some quirks like double damage here and low roll on skill 2 and 3 use, or the fact that the kit uses Deep Breath as its main damage modifier for the entire kit. And of course, we cannot miss the big nuke on skill 3. Deep Breath is a status that comes from Ryoshu's E.G.O of the same name, effectively making stacking poise potency over 20 be actually beneficial by consuming any poise potency above 15 and 1 stack of this effect to deal increased crit damage. And before you ask, yes, I am aware that these two have different names, and it's a mistake on the ID making side. Looking at our first passive, we get an introduction to all the new status effects the ID has to offer. Ryoshu gains Nebulizer Delta when the fight starts, acting like a tweaked version of Nebulizer Beta on Ryoshu's Thoracolgia E.G.O. The effect takes 2 poise potency and 3 count from an ally and applies it to allies with the least poise count, which, funnily enough, can also siphon poise from Ryoshu herself. Another piece of trivia for the curious, Limbus skills or status effects that state that they interact with allies also count in the ID using the effect themselves as an ally. Only when the effect mentions other allies does it not include the ID itself. Nebulizer Delta also prevents Deep Inhale from being consumed on crits whenever there is any type of Pride Resonance. Steady Breath acts as our Deep Inhale generator, giving us 1 on crit and 2 on turn end. So even without a Pride Resonance, Ryoshu is still neutral with Deep Inhale, as long as she has this effect. And lastly, we have Gasping for Air, which makes Ryoshu lose 3 poise potency on turn end and change her moveset when she has this effect. What's the other moveset? We'll get to that soon. For now, let's look back at the passive. Whenever anyone has 10 or more poise potency than Ryoshu, she loses Steady Breath and gains Gasping for Air. And of course, whenever she has the most poise potency, the opposite happens. Breathe Out is a short Sin passive, making Ryoshu deal true damage equal to half her poise potency whenever she crits, which is a bit strong, but let's be real, Deep Inhale is mostly gonna control how much damage she deals. And of course, we cannot forget the mandatory damage buff support passive. Just take a look at it so we can move on to the other moveset. Did you read through it? Great. Now look at this. Looks pretty funky, right? Well, because it is. The moveset focuses on targeting allies with the most poise as sub-targets, since every skill now has attack weight, and stealing poise potency and count from any one hit. What sucks though is that, while every skill states that it does 99% less damage to allies, it doesn't do much, as first off, even with 99 damage reduction, the damage on crits will still hurt. After all, we all know how much damage Unbreakables with similar nerfs can do. And we have Deep Inhale. It's gonna do even more damage. The skills, aside from most likely causing a couple of your sinners to die and have their poise supply stolen to further feed Ryoshu's damage, look pretty good. And then you look at skill tree, which loses power on both Unopposed attack and on Clash Win, but a better alternative would be just making the base roll and coin power be small by default, and replacing the conditional roll bonuses to be Clash power instead. The idea has its ups and downs and will probably kill your team, but it did make me think of a potential way it could work with Thoracolgia's E.G.O. Yeah, unfortunately Thoracolgia's E.G.O nebulizer effect gain is only triggered by the victims of the E.G.O itself, and the AD doesn't state it makes any exception for itself. Otherwise, we could have a more interesting tactic of sending out a weaker poise team with Ryoshu, so she can just eliminate them, ramping up fast and getting Nebulizer Beta to max, to then provide an extremely strong support to back up poise IDs while also doing a lot of damage herself. Some reduction to Deep Inhale poise consumption would be also really nice. In the end, the idea is good. In my opinion, it would need some tweaks to be really fun. And I'm really saying like some minor tweaks. Nextly, we have... Alright, another one of those again? I mean, it's just Megumi from Jujutsu Kaisen. Just drives itself to summoning Mahoraga who... Yeah, I'm not covering one of those. One was enough. Can we have some normal submissions here, please? Thank you. Welcome to the world of a forgotten faction that some of you are probably dying to see more of in the game. Welcome South Section 2 Shia Association Rodion. And look, I went over these kits before writing the script for this video, and this ID puzzled, still puzzles, and will probably puzzle me forever. First off, the ID starts with 25% of HP remaining and cannot be staggered from taking damage for 2 turns. The HP loss is a nice callback to Ruinashi Association, but let me give you a quick lesson on how stagger prevention works. Whenever you have a stagger prevention, like let's say Yield My Flesh, the stagger bar remains even if you get damage past it, which means once you lose the stagger prevention, a single hit will have you staggered in an instant. And we all know it's extremely easy to get hit in current Limbus with a certain red coin, and now even green ones. Second passive takes a note from Index Fausandon, requiring 3 sin affinities the identity has in order for it to activate, and it's a mess. Rodion gains base power for every 25% missing HP, up to 2. Pretty understandable looking at an overworked Shia ID, but then we read further to see that she gains up to 2 coin power for every 30% HP on self. Not missing. Same story with the next line actually, gaining up to 2 final power for every 50% HP on self. And looking at the skills, we can see why this weird power gain is an issue, to say the least. The skills gain more bonus effects from being low HP for the cost of rolling low, or interact with the ID's respective statuses less the more HP Rodion has. Which I guess is a gimmick in itself, but it's a really iffy one. And then we look at Rodion's Clashable Guard, which gives her a free 15% HP heal every time she uses it. 20% if you use it twice, making her somehow heal more than the Bloodfiend IDs. The status gain and infliction is good though, not being too strong or being too weak. So the ID just shapes out to be really janky. And I'm not even sure if the coin power and final power conditionals are intended to be that way. Next on the list we have another Rodion ID, and this one is... Wait, why is it 3 screenshots? Why are the skills... Why is it so bright? What is this? What am I reading? Why is it actually stronger than bosses? 10 bleed? I'm not bothering to read through all of this and review it. I'm sorry, but this video is already long as it is, and this would probably double the length unless I'd collaborate with Encorp itself. Alright, that took a while, didn't it? But now that we finally have all the 3-star identities out of the way, it's only fair I choose a winner. No, not you 3, get out of here! We can also take the junky Shi Rodion ID out of here while at it, leaving us with Ryu, Heathcliff and LCE Torakalji Ryoshu. I really enjoyed both of the IDs actually, and had some trouble picking out the winner, but in the end, I will have to give it to the Ryoshu ID for generally being more standardized to Limbus IDs, while also having its own interesting gimmick and some fun uses with minor tweaks. And this finally closes off our 3-star identity category, leaving us only with the E.G.O s. So let's go take a look at them. First submission is... Look, it's not a joke, it's a semi-joke, so we will give it a read. Gregor's 500 cigarettes E.G.O is, surprisingly, not a poised E.G.O, as it uses smoke. Close enough. The Awakening gives Gregor some smoke while inflicting nice debuffs, though that bonus crit damage is unneeded for an E.G.O that doesn't interact with poise itself in any way. It's kinda like sort of home glue situation. The corrosion lacks an aim, and it inflicts smoke to the target instead of gaining it, which is a nice support for other IDs, since they get to capitalize from the smoke damage buff. No name for the passive as well, which gives Gregor smoke whenever any 3+ resonance is made. On top of that, if the resonance was an absolute resonance, Gregor gains Puffy Broom for the turn, making him deal more damage due to smoke instead of taking more damage from it. And that's basically all for this E.G.O. It's a simple TEF E.G.O with some really nice usage, so despite being a semi-joke, I'll give it a pass. Next E.G.O, the price of kindness, is for Don Quixote, having 2 awakenings and 1 corrosion. Yeah, this one is a lengthy one, so get ready. The first awakening works in the same way as Unbrilliant Glory Flowing or Tears of Tarnished Blood Inception would, as it's meant to do no damage, activate E.G.O passive and give Don some status effects. And at 2+, Wish to Stand Tall, the E.G.O uses its second version instead, which immediately consumes all Wish to Stand Tall and Weight of the Sky to gain attack wave, coin power, poise and kill more damage. That's a lot of stuff. If Dawn manages to win the clash with the E.G.O, she can effectively use this version of the Awakening again the next turn due to gaining Wish to Stand Tall on hit after a clash win. The Corrosion might just be one of the strongest E.G.Os in the game, as aside from consuming the 2 statuses like the Awakening, it inflicts nice amounts of sinking and tremor while bursting tremor a lot of times for free on head's hit. It also can trigger sinking the lash if it rolls tails instead, giving sinking teams a reason to finally throw the biggest fraud I have ever seen. There's no bias in that sentence. The passive pressure basically makes it so that whenever Dawn redirects an attack from an ally and wins said clash, she gains 1 Wish to Stand Tall. And if she doesn't redirect any clash, she gains Weight of the Sky instead, as well as lose Weight of the Sky times 4 sanity. That's a lot of sanity, but it actually might not be that bad, surprisingly. Look, hear me out in a second. Let's finally look at the status effects. Wish to Stand Tall is just some basic buffs, up to 3 haste and 2 clash power, but I'm more so interested with the Weight of the Sky, which maxes out at 4, gives Bind and Paralyze equal to the stack, and that's it. Yeah, the Bind hurts, but self-Paralyze might not be that bad, since introducing negative coins. Paralyze on self makes all negative coins effectively stronger, as they don't take away the base power on heads rolls, meaning the E.G.O is a guaranteed max roll, and if Dawn had a negative coin ID, this could make it even better. Oh, right, she has one. Introducing mentally insane Queen of Hatred Don Quixote with a negative coin skill set. I think you see the idea. Get Weight of the Sky while you are still in the Hatred phase, and once you get out of it, use the Corrosion to get rid of Weight of the Sky. Simple enough, while making the negative state much more consistent with the rolls. I don't really know if the synergy with Queen of Hatred Dawn was planned or not, but it's welcome even if it was a happy accident. It elevates the E.G.O. I think you can tell I really like this E.G.O. The E.G.O is good itself, and it has the synergy with Queen of Hatred. Now, last E.G.O and last submission of the entire video is Ardor Blossom Star Ryoshu, which comes at an unholy cost of 14 resources, trying to rival Garden of Thorns and the 2 great Trichiliocosm E.G.Os. While yes, E.G.Os like Contempt Hour, which usually are seen as good E.G.Os, also costs 12. The passive of that E.G.O provides additional E.G.O resources at least. This one doesn't. But enough of babbling about resources, let's actually see what the E.G.O does. The Awakening version makes Ryoshu lose 25 sanity on use, and 30 sanity over the course of 3 turns, adding up to 55 sanity? Which, mind you, is way more than any other WoW E.G.O. It targets up to 7 enemies, inflicts 6 burn potency and deals some decent damage on the last coin, while also inflicting one of the E.G.O's 3 unique status effects. And Dying Flame is nothing more than Dark Flame's little brother, as it does the exact same thing but worse, and for wrath damage instead of pride. While Dark Flame stacks up to 7 and scales from burn potency, Dying Flame stacks up to 5 and scales from burn count. Which, while burn doesn't really have an issue with count, it stacks up much slower than burn potency for already lower payoff than Dark Flame due to the lower stack. The corrosion just exists, it's there. Like, you can look at it. There's nothing for me to say about it. Unending Desire to Burn passive makes Ryoshu gain Embers on hit with her skills, limited to 1 per skill, and inflicting Shimmering Ember divided by 10 Dying Flames, up to 2 times. Embers max out at 10 and give Ryoshu 1 rough damage up for every 3 stacks, and at max stack turn into Shimmering Embers. And Shimmering Embers max out at 13 sets, making Ryoshu gain Shimmering Embers instead of Embers, giving Ryoshu the ability to inflict 1 more burn potency with her base skills, and gain 1 defense down for every 5 Shimmering Embers, and 1 burn potency on count at turn end. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room here. You need to use 40 skills to get max Shimmering Embers, since you gain 1 Ember per skill. And even then, the payoff is inflicting a much worse Dark Flame and applying 1 more burn potency while getting burn on self and 6 defense level down, which is basically too fragile. All that for an incredibly high sanity and resource cost. I, for the love of me, cannot find really any use for this E.G.O, nor is it even good with a Born Ryoshu ID, making the winner of the E.G.O category pretty clear. Well, this was definitely something. It took me a while, but here we are. Congratulations to all the winners and thank you to everyone who participated in this, even if your submissions were promptly burned. I hope you did enjoy everything I presented here, and I hope to... Well, I'd like to say in the next video, but I don't know if that will ever happen. Maybe. It might happen if I ever decide to make a similar competition, or just review custom IDs for fun, if I find any good ones, that is. So, that will be all, and see you all whenever.